What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, tonight, we've got some more news for Eternity Code. Now, I told y'all I was expecting a lot of Eternity Code news in the next 2 weeks. We've gotten some good stuff just in the last couple days. We got the new Generator monster this morning. That card is like literally, in my opinion, going to be like the best card in the deck, barring the field spell. And now, tonight, we've got Jack, Atlas, and Shark support cards. Two of like the they're like, well, antagonists for like the first 10 episodes or whatever, and then they're kind of like friends, but they're like the friends, like Kaiba's friends to Yugi, where he kind of still talks shit, but like they still friends, more or less. They're still comrades. So yeah, we got support here. By the way, if I do sound off, if I do sound like I'm lacking a little bit of energy, a little bit of spunk, I am definitely under the weather. You can probably definitely hear it in my voice. Just know, my energy is still there. I'm just physically not feeling the best. But I'm feeling this. I feel spunky. I still feel it. Okay? And we're going to get through this, all right? So please, get past my voice. All right, let's get into these cards, though. First, we'll start with Red Familiar, which is a Dark Fiend effect monster. He's a level 4 with 1600 attack, 0 defense. So you can only activate both of his effects once per turn each. Also, I flippin' love his design. His design is so cool. Anyway, you contribute 1 Fiend monster. Then target 1 Dark Dragon Synchro monster in your graveyard. Special summon it in defense position, but negate its effects. Okay. Second effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target a Dark Dragon Synchro monster you control and declare level from 1 to 8. That monster becomes that level until the end of the turn. Now, 2 pretty interesting effects. One thing I will say is I don't believe this deck was really lacking mid to late game stuff. I mean, not that it had that, but like to need mid to late game cards, you need to have like a strong starting cast of cards first. So like, and I know that archetype, I felt like if I'm remembering correctly, had fallen behind a little bit in that aspect, been power crept a good amount, but still a decent card that you can just bring back a Dark Dragon Synchro and then just change its level. So as long as you had any tuner on board, you can essentially make any tuner, any synchro, from level 2 to level 9, essentially. So, level 2 to level 12, essentially, the whole thing, which is pretty cool. So I like that. He's cool. I like his design more than I like his effect, though. Nothing crazy. Next up, we have Crimson Resonator. This is a Dark Fiend tuner effect monster. It's a level 2 with 800 attack and 300 defense. You can only use its first and second effects once per turn each. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck during the turn you activate any of this card's effects except for Dark Dragon Synchro monsters. Clearly, these are effects designed for the new Master Rules update, because if this was part of his restriction in Master Rule 4, this is awful. So obviously that makes sense. First effect, though, if you control no monsters, you can just special summon this card from the hand. Okay, nothing crazy, pretty easy. Cyber Dragon. If the only other monster you control is exactly 1 Dark Dragon Synchro monster, then you can special summon up to 2 Resonator monsters from your hand and or deck, except for Crimson Resonator. Now that is a really strong effect. I don't know if there are ways to like use him for a synchro and then get him back. If any of the synchros have ways to like revive him, like one synchro summon or anything like that, or if you can just summon him and get like have extenders in your hand. Your normal summon gets you to a Dark Dragon Synchro, because special summoning 2 straight from the deck is pretty good, and this card is going to set you up for the new card we got, the new, was it a level 12 Synchro? The new big boss monster that's like unaffected. He's kind of like a big towers-ish type monster with like 4,000 attack or something. I can't remember exactly what it does, but this card definitely is set for that, because I think that monster needed 3 tuners combined to make his Synchro summon, and this could be the card that kind of gets them there. That or, the Junk Speeder, right? One of those. But this is really cool. Really, really strong. Obviously, the restriction is kind of brutal. Really limiting what you're able to do, but they're definitely good Dark Dragon Synchro monsters, so we're not really complaining all the way. Next up, we've got Command Resonator. There's a quick play spell. You can only activate once per turn. Discard a Resonator monster to add a level 4 lower Fiend from your deck to your hand. This is super interesting. I want to say it's super interesting, but it's not. You read this and it's a quick play rota. You're like, that's insane for any level 4 lower Fiend. Yeah, the result is great, but to activate it, you've got to be playing enough Resonators to make this worth. I'm not sure any deck outside of this deck is going to be playing enough Resonators to make this work. So it's very cool in the deck, very possibly nice for consistency. I mean, I don't even know how many Resonators they play. I mean, this guy is probably a 3 of just because of how like big of a ceiling he has, but we'll have to wait and see if you actually play enough to make this card worth. But still, definitely nice. And then next up we have the Trap, which is red Rain. It's a normal trap card. You can only activate its second effect once per turn. First effect says, if you control a level 8 or higher synchro monster, banish as many monsters on the field as possible, except the monster with the highest level, monster or monsters if they're tied. And if you do, face-up monsters on the field that were not banished by this effect are unaffected by card effects this turn except for their own. Now that is a strong effect. We'll see the second one real quick. If a Dark Dragon Synchro monster is synchro summoned to your field while this card's in the grave, you can add this card back to your hand. This card is very, very strong. I'm not sure if it's actually searchable. I don't believe it is, but it is insanely strong. I mean, just think. I mean, you could just, all you could do is make like a hot red, and people are like, all right, that board's pretty weak for 2020 standards, right? Okay, but if you set this also, this is going to be essentially Torrential Tribute, but you don't have to wait for a summon, and you can just banish everything except for your one big monster, assuming it's the biggest level on the field when you activate it. And then that monster can't be outed for the rest of the turn, and if it's hot red, like hot red still has a negate. And then if you synchro summon on the next turn, you're just going to add this back to your hand. That's just a once per turn effect, by the way, and it doesn't even say like banish it the next time it leaves the field. So you can just do that every single turn, which is pretty wild. This card is definitely super, super strong. I'm curious if, I don't know if it's searchable. I don't really know much about this archetype, but if it is, whoo, that's a big one. All right, then we move to some shark support, right? Lanternshark. We'll start with a level 4 fish, 1500 attack, 900 defense, with a hard once per turn on the first effect. If this card is normal or special, you can special summon a level 3, 4, or 5 water monster from hand in defense, except for another copy of itself. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except Xyz, which before would have been awful, but as long as it's in the new Master Rule, it should be fine. And the second effect, this card can be treated as a level 3 or 5 for the Xyz summon of a water Xyz monster. Pretty nice card. I mean, it's kind of just like Goblinberg, but in archetype, which is kind of good. I think this one's pretty mediocre, honestly. I like that he can be any level you need, because I know they have 5s and 3s, and then obviously like generic 4s are like still fine. But I think it's more just okay than anything. I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's awful. It's just super okay. Like an impermanence just like ends your turn if you start with this card, right? Cutter Shark, the next one, is a water fish effect monster, 1600 attack, 500 defense, hard once per turn on the first effect. You can target a water monster you control that has a level. Special summon a fish with the same level, but a different name from your deck. But for the rest of this turn, it cannot activate its effects. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except for Xyz. So again, lock you into Xyz. Again, before it would have been awful. Now it's fine, because this deck's just going to be Xyz Turbo anyway. Also, same thing as the other one, this card can also be treated as a 3 or a 5 for the Xyz summon of a water. This one is much, much better than this one, in my opinion. But if you can go, wait, this one negates its effects, right? No, this one does not. So you could actually go Lantern into Cutter, then Cutter just special from deck, and just get 3 level 4s out, which is pretty good. Definitely. I think this one's way, way better. I mean, just target any water, target itself, and you can just special level 4 fish for free, straight from the deck, which is really good. Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I think this one's really good. This one's not. This one's really good. Again, like probably just loses to impermanence, but nobody is expecting sharks to be good in 2020. Next up, we have Valiant Shark Lancer. It's a water beast warrior. Xyz monster. It's rank 5. Generic, takes any 2 level 5s. 2500 attack, 1600 defense, so pretty big. And both its effects are hard once per turns. Sorry about the coughing, by the way. I'm struggling. Talking a lot makes me cough. First effect, you can target one monster your opponent controls, detach a material from any monster you control, and if you do, destroy that target. Okay? Nice and simple. Just target and destroy. Fine. And then also, this is a quick effect if you control another water Xyz. Now that becomes super interesting, especially if you did something like Bahamut Shark into Toad, and then was also able to get this on the board. Then you're looking, because you've got a negate, you've got a quick effect Trident essentially, and Also, you've got beaters galore that you're probably going to go in with on the next turn. So definitely pretty cool here. I like that this can become a quick effect. Really nice. And the second effect, if another water Xyz monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect while this card's in the monster zone, you can choose one spell from your deck and put it on top of your deck. That's just icing on the cake. It's not an effect that I'm assuming will come up very often. If somebody reads this, they're going to try and avoid that and not give you the best possible top deck you could get. But, you know, it is what it is. It lets you stack any spell, and it's fine, but I'm not sure how often it'll come up. Icing on the cake, the main effect is the first effect being removal / disruption, which is pretty cool, and he's a beater. So, cool monster, nice for them. And the next one is a normal spell called Air Torpedo. You can only use either of this card's first or second effects once per turn, and only once that turn. It's a normal spell. First effect, target one water Xyz monster you control. Detach a material from it, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the number of cards in your hand times 400, and if you do that, the monster gains attack equal to the amount of damage dealt that this effect dealt. That's pretty cool. I mean, thinking about some of the Xyz you could do, if you did go through for like a Bahamut into Toad play, you could make Toad, I mean, you could do this, you know, burn your opponent for 1,200 and you'd have a 3,400 Toad, and that's permanent gain, by the way. It does not go away. So 1,200 Toad's pretty freaking big, obviously, and annoying to deal with. It's very good. And then the second effect says you can banish this card and a water Xyz from your graveyard to draw 2 cards. That is clean. Obviously, remember, you can only activate one of these effects once per turn, but if there was something like, you know, Foolish Burial Goods to get this into grave, and then turn 1 you're able to get an Xyz, a water Xyz engraved just as part of your combo. Draw 2. I mean, I don't know if that's really worth it at all, but, you know, it's just stuff like that, and then over the course of a duel, like, this could definitely be the difference. Just drawing 2 mid to late game could definitely get you a win later in a duel, for sure. And then the last card we have today is possibly the best card. I don't know. It's Xyz Revive Splash. This is a normal trap card. You can either use this first or second effect once per turn, and only once per turn. Means they're probably both pretty good. First effect, target one rank 4 or lower Xyz monster in your graveyard. Special summon it, and if you do, its attribute becomes water. Okay. Second effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Then target one water Xyz monster you control. Special summon one water Xyz monster that is 1 rank higher from your extra deck by using that card as XYZ material. This is treated as an Xyz summon. Also transfer the materials to the new monster. Now that's really, really cool. I'm not entirely sure where the best specific implications are for that, like what the best scenarios for this is, but this seems like a very, very powerful card. Like, not only is it just a reborn for an Xyz monster, but then it's going to let you, as a quick effect, rank on top of that into a higher monster. Obviously, it links you into waters. This guy's a level 5, so maybe he could come up in there, but, you know, we'd have to wait and see. Very, very strong card. I think this card could be very good. I don't think it's searchable, so, like, that's the biggest downside, obviously, but still, it may be worth playing just because it could be that good. Air Torpedo, fine. This guy, pretty good. Removal / disruption. These guys, pretty good. This guy, definitely good. This guy, okay. This card, very, very strong. This card can be good in this deck. It just depends on how many Resonators we play. This card, super, super high ceiling, but I'm not sure if it's actually worth with the restrictions. And then this guy, I think he's a little too much, like, based off of recursion in a deck that I'm not sure really needs it. That's kind of a deck that just kind of wants to set up and then have you not be able to out their big monsters, right? So I don't know. Obviously, guys, these are just my opinions. I don't know too much about either of these decks, really, so these are just, you know, impressions of a guy that just saw these cards for the first time and doesn't know anything about the deck. Sorry again about the voice. I know it's awful. I'm struggling right now. It's kind of hurting to talk. But I'm just going to say thank you for watching and subscribe to the channel. If you want to see more news videos from me in the future, hopefully me sounding way, way better. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see. And, yeah. You know, stay tuned for more Eternity Code stuff. We're going to get, I mean, this is what, 9 cards here. We got 1 today, which means we still need like 50 cards for Eternity Code in the next like 13 days or 12 days or something. So, you know, we definitely got a lot coming. So stay tuned for that. I love you guys. Have a great Christmas and peace.